All right, what's up, Floater Gang? I am going to be giving my projected top 14 picks, not necessarily who I think should go, but who I do think will go. Number one, Atlanta Hawks will go with Risa Shea. Sar doesn't want to go there. They're going to take Risa Shea. I think that's the second best move. Risa Shea is
There's not going to be
projected
plenty.
many as number one. I think this would be the right move between Klingon and Risa Shea. That's what they're picking between. He fits in there nicely. They need defense. They want to continue to space the floor. He's got a good feel for the game. I
Mhm.
like it there. I don't think there's any disagreements. I think this is a consensus pick. Number two, then Washington has to take Sarr. I think there's no doubt about it. They
Way
haven't
better.
needed everything. It'd be perfect. Makes sense. Number three, Houston Rockets are going to stick with who I think they'll probably get at that point is Reed Shepard. Get the shooting. Makes sense for this the way the roster is built around defense, etc. They have almost every position already kind of set anyway. Number four, San Antonio Spurs. I almost think they could maybe trade this pick. I'm gonna say they take Buzelis,
Oh,
who has a lot of flair around his name and just kind of a high ceiling given the talent he possesses, the feel of the game. He can theoretically do everything, right? If he really pans out, you have a guy that's whatever. What is he? 6'8", 6'10", that can handle the ball, make
Oh,
plays, shoot the Dirk 1 footer fade away, shoot the three ball. Very athletic, good defender, right? That's kind of what you're looking at with Buzelis. It's a very potential pick, and I think he could be developed nice there in San Antonio. I think my Spurs will recognize that.
my only question with that is this like a play alongside Sohan thing, or like we're just done with something?
I mean, Sohan is ultimately like, unless he gets better, he's not starting material in the NBA.
Yeah,
That's just how it
right.
is.
Yeah.
And given Buzel's potential, I mean, like you're definitely gonna try to develop that guy. And if Buzel's like pans out decently, I think that would be quite the scary fit next to a Wemby.
For sure.
Having two guys that are sizable, they can stretch the floor, do anything on the court defensively, both powerhouses. Well, I mean, I don't know if Buzel's a powerhouse, but he's good.
He's good.
So
He's solid.
he's good. And then number five, Detroit. I keep having them projected to get Dalton Connect. I don't know how they feel about him, so I don't know if this is what they're interested in. I
I like
just think
that
it
though.
makes a lot of sense. Detroit has been
Look,
down in the ditches. Dalton Connect, I think, is going to come in and he's going to have some sort of an impact offensively. He's got a good feel for the game. They need guys that can score the ball and shoot the ball. So I like maybe him and Cade Cunningham could get going. I think Detroit might be able to recognize that and just maybe go for a safer pick so they can avoid embarrassment after all this time.
No, they already have avoided embarrassment.
I think it'd be a nice change of pace for Detroit. Like, let's get a guy that can shoot the basketball, because their past picks haven't. Um, and his defense is a little shaky, but I think with
Sorry.
Asar, I don't know, why I said Azor, but
You always do.
yeah, I've said it since the draft, and I just never have been able to get rid of it. But I think he's a good enough defender to, I mean, like, when you what who are we talking about? Friggin' Connect is a solid defender, dude. I am all jumbled right now. So I think he's a solid defender. I think if you're going upside for Detroit, Connect's not the pick. But if you're Detroit, just like take a guy that's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know how the new GM feels, but
Plus they're to be head coach.
And
that's
plus,
true.
I don't hate the upside of a 20-point per game scorer in the league, which I'm not predicting he'll be, but I do think that's an upside.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be a all-star. I don't think that's out of the question.
And there you go.
Like the dude can shoot the ball like nobody's business. He can put the
Plus he
ball on
can
the
do
floor.
everything else.
He's pretty athletic. I think
Yeah.
he's underrated athletic though.
He's very well-rounded as a player too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he is old, but it's not like
He's not old. He's old for the draft, but he's
Well,
not
yeah.
old. He's like 22.
23. But he's bounced around. He's worked his way up. Like in terms of like mileage, he's not that old.
Yeah. And like I just think as far as Detroit just fired Monty Williams, they've had some front office changes. I just think that points out, right, like you said, taking a different route at draft picks, and I think this might be a good fit. This might be the route they're trying to take and not lose an insane amount of games again.
No
Or
more
looking to
Killian
do
Hayes
that.
picks.
Those were
Nope,
nice.
no more Clean Hayes. At
Those
number
were-
6, Charlotte Hornets. I have them going with Holland here. We
Ooh.
have that. I think Castle is definitely a contender. I think those guys are very similar. Him and Castle. I like Holland better personally. Holland had a lot of hype going in. I know
You would
people
get to
love
hit it
Castle
hot take.
too. They're both kind of guys that are a little bit polarizing in this draft. Uh, but with the whole Castle wants to be a true point guard thing, I don't know if that's something his camp said in public, but they're telling certain teams in private that he'd be down for whatever,
Right.
just so he can kind of maybe choose where he's drafted. And maybe I don't know if Charlotte is one of those teams or not. I don't even know if this is the case at all. But let's just say that's all factual. He wants to be a true point guard. Obviously, Charlotte is not a great fit. They have LaMelo Ball. They just extended him. Huge contract. He's the guy. And I think Hall might be a great fit. I just love another guy next to Brandon Miller and him that kid has a lot of upside. And I think he can actually really well develop that shot. Good defender. They need that.
I mean, if we're talking pure star power, I think Ron Holland is, I mean, definitely best available. And I mean, like his athleticism, his drive ability, his defense. I mean, it's not like perfectly refined, but it's he plays to win, and he plays super freaking hard.
And
On a team
Charlotte
that
needs that.
sucked. Yeah,
Charlotte needs that.
for sure. I mean, he's definitely not the type of player. I mean, I think Brandon Miller to an extent is that type of player, but um, and he's going to have LaMelo Ball to set him up. I
And
think,
Trey Man.
and Trayshawn Albert Mann. Um, but I like it. I like the pick a lot, actually. I really like Ron Holland. His jumper is weird. I mean, it's bad, but
You can fix it, maybe.
so it's like, are you eating?
No.
What the hell?
Anyway,
Okay.
excuse me, but I like the Ron Holland fit for sure. I think he's more of an upside play than Castle is. Like I think Castle's like a for sure thing because he's played in a winning offense. But like if Holland develops how you think he could, I would take him over Castle.
Yeah, I like it. His shot, I know it gets a lot of hate, and I mean it's valid. His numbers aren't great. I do like when you watch his tape how confident he is and the type of shots he's taking, like step back fades, step back threes. Like whereas Castle, you see a lot more hesitancy. I personally don't like Castle's mechanics all that much. Where instead I like Holland's a lot more, and it's kind of backed up by the fact of how confident he is. He's taking step backs, a lot more fluid, pretty good release point. I think there's a lot more to work with there. I don't know how he'd be as a catch and shooter, which is probably a little bit more of what he'd do on that team. And I just love, like, again, the hustle. I love having a guy that's as athletic as him, maybe being able to catch some lobs or just kind of working off of the space created by Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball and being able to hit the lane as a cutter and finish strong at the basket. So
And
I like
another
that. I don't
thing,
know. Yeah.
sorry, just last thing about Holland. His team sucked. Like he was the primary creator. The spacing was terrible. Like I think like especially with Buzelis too. I don't know how much I want to take into factor just how bad that team was and how bad that must have hurt them. Like so I think I want to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. I mean, they were the number 1 and number 2 projected picks coming in, you know. Um so I like it.
For sure. At number 7, I think Memphis is going to trade up with
Oh, so
Portland. They're just going
Memphis
to
is
switch
lost.
that 7 and 9 pick. It's going to be some sort of trade that I don't know the exact package. But I think Memphis would trade up because they want Klingon. Klingon's still on the board. A lot of people see him as a top 3 talent in this draft. And just with that kind of value, I think if he's still available, they're going to do what they can to take that. I think Portland's fine moving back. Portland was kind of in a weird situation. We'll get there in a second. But yeah, I think they get Klingon at 7 to secure Klingon. He's the most hyped big man after Sar, by far and large by most people, and so I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I love Klingon in Memphis. I mean, we talked about it in the mock draft that we had when I picked him at 9 in Memphis. I think he's a perfect replacement for Steven Adams in Memphis.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he
Go.
defends the rim well. He runs well. He has like people say he has like potential shooting touch. I don't know if I believe it. And I don't know if he needs it. Just
And
because
Steven Adams does too. I mean,
he really just needs to be what Steven Adams was.
Yeah, and I think
Not
he can-
injury prone, but
I think he can be exactly that,
Yeah.
talent wise.
I mean, I think they project pretty similarly. They're both massive. And another thing, like people compare Klingon to Gobert a lot, which like defensively I don't hate it. I don't hate it, but Klingon has good hands. You know, he doesn't struggle to catch the ball like Rudy Gobert does.
Gobert.
Which it's useful with a guy like John Moran in the pick and roll. Even Desmond Bain.
Mark Smart.
For
he's
sure.
Smart.
Yeah, I really don't love his touch at all, but I do like his just kind of his overall feel and IQ of the game. Just being able to see cutters and things
He's
like
pretty,
that. Being able to,
he's pretty solid passer.
yeah, for sure. And then at number 8, the Spurs keep that pick as well. Robert Dillingham. I swear to God, they better draft Robert Dillingham with this pick. I have it projected that way. Personally, he's a top tier guy. He's a top 2 guy for me in this draft. So I think that's a steal still at number 8 for my Spurs. And then number 9, we have that Portland pick. Number 9, I think they would draft Cody Williams. I think fit wise it makes sense. A lot of people are high. He's definitely got potential. I just think it makes sense because they're covered everywhere on like theoretically on their roster. They have guards. They have theoretically big guys, right? In Aiton and in Robert Williams. And so I think Robert Williams makes a lot of sense. Gonna have another forward next to Jeremy Grant, who they did just extend, but he's not super young. His future is very unclear. Cody Williams seems to actually be a good guy that could learn from Jeremy Grant. They seem like they could have kind of a like he could turn into a version of Jeremy Grant. And with those efficient number he puts up, it just makes a lot of sense for a team that struggles to shoot the 3 ball to have a guy that can make them more efficient as an offense and hopefully space the floor, has defensive upside. It seems to make sense.
Portland is in a weird spot for like unless they're taking a big, which they may do. I don't know. But I mean I don't think they probably won't take Klingon. But they kind of have to get a guy that can shoot the basketball because they don't have a lot of that, you know. And Scoot, I don't know what Simon's future is, but Shade and they just need more shooters around them. And Cody was, I mean, he had pretty low attempts, but he shot really efficiently. And I think that would just be, you know, and projecting he could be a solid defender next to those guys. Portland has really struggled, like just in any era lately, like even in the Dame CJ era, they just struggle to get good forwards. You know?
Yeah.
Sure, that could
Right.
change here. And for Portland, like you said, they're in a weird spot. Like as a team, going into last season, we talked about how we love the spot they're in after that trade. I don't know how I feel about Portland right now because as a team, so I'm pretty sure they're over the tax. I don't remember, but they don't have a lot of cap space. They're paying a lot of guys a lot of money, so they're not really like Orlando Magic, a young team that has a lot of space. Whilst Orlando Magic had a lot of success in the regular season, which Portland didn't have that either. They're struggling on defense, struggling from 3. They have all these young guys, but it's very uncertain who's staying, and money issues are also a concern. So they're in a really weird position where they kind of start having to make decisions who will be moving forward in their future and who will not be, and how to actually create a winning team. Because I feel like they have a lot of talent, but it's not really leading to winning at the moment.
I think they're in a weird spot because they don't know who's in their core. Like,
Yeah, they don't have
I think Scoot. I mean, he wasn't great, but he's definitely a piece of the core. Simon's future is kind of unclear. Is Shane Sharp turning out how we wanted? I mean, he kind of had an injury riddled year last year. I don't know if DeAndre Ayton with his big contract is like firmly in that.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I think they want him to be,
Yeah.
but he's not yet. Just with like the way he's performed.
I think Rob Williams could be a trade candidate. Jeremy
sure.
Grant.
For sure.
Malcolm Brogdon, I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think they have a lot
100%.
of. Maybe Tumani Kamara is their second guy.
No, you nailed it. Honestly, they
I
have
don't think
no
he's-
guy that's like certain as part of their core right now. They're gonna
Yeah.
give Scoot another chance, but even Scoot he had low moments last season.
Yeah.
Didn't look like we had expected. So
Could
they're
argue
in
he
an
had the
interesting.
lowest moment in NBA history.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think didn't he have it twice even?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he broke the record twice.
I think he
Yeah,
did.
in his rookie season. So
Unfortunately.
that's fun.
Unfortunate for him.
Yeah. So they're interesting. But moving on to number 10, the Utah Jazz in a similar but better spot. A bunch of young guys too. Corey's a little bit uncertain, but a little more certain. Um, at this point, with Topic still on the board, I think you have to take Topic. I think the ceiling is too high not to take him. Also, I just like the fit because they have a bunch of guards. Kind of a weird fit, right? They have Sexton, they have THT, Tom Horton Tucker, that is, and then they have, of course, Keontae George, who looked great. Most people, and I think I would agree, I think Keontae George ultimately should be a shooting guard, with some or a duo guard. I don't think he's a full-time point guard, and so I think Topic, especially like as pass and playmaking oriented as he is, I think it would be great to have given that potential. And you have a guy like Walker Kessler, who I think would be a great pick and roll guy with Topic, and I think he brings that team together and gives them something they don't have necessarily in their guards. Um, so I like Topic there. Plus, like if he's still available at 10, I think you kind of have to go Topic.
Utah is they're not in a tricky spot because I really like their future. Actually, I like a lot of the guys they have. I mean, and they have an all-star already, Larry Martin.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like, so I question the defensive upside of a Topic, Keontae George backcourt, and Seth Castle's right there. I think in a vacuum, I take Topic over Castle,
When you
but
say defensive or offensive upside?
defensive, offensive
Oh,
upside's
okay.
through the roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I
Um,
misunderstood. I thought you said offense. I was so confused.
No. I mean, but I think it's you're kind of in a point where you're like, let's just take the best player if you're Utah. And I think Topic could be the best player. A lot of people like Salon,
Yeah, I don't know. Tidjan.
Yeah.
Tidjane.
the Jane.
Jane. Damn, we don't even know how to say. Damn, you know what? That guy. I think you know who we're talking
But
about.
if I'm Utah, front court's so loaded. So
Yeah, but I mean, you can theoretically trade Clarkson to free up some space.
I mean, Sexton's been rumored as a
Yeah,
name.
but I've also really want to keep him. So
I mean, I would know. It's on a nice contract too.
He's
But,
he's very nice. If you keep Sexton, I think you go Topic. If you trade Sexton, Castle becomes a lot more appealing,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Just given what Sexton does on the court. But moving on to Chicago, I think they're in an interesting spot just because at this point they might look to trade back. I couldn't find a good suitor that would want to trade up. So I just have them taking Jared McCain. I think he's still great for what they can get here. Furphy might be interesting too. But they need a shooter, honestly, pretty desperately. They need
I
to
really
they
thought that's
suck
why I
at
got
shooting the three ball. Just be great to space a floor. He looks comfortable out there. He's got an insane 3-point shot. He's super deadly, arguably the best 3-point shooter in this draft. So I would like him in Chicago.
I don't think Tristan De Silva. Tristan De guys. Tristan De Silva. Tristan De Silva
You
is
got
off
it?
the table for Chicago. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Guys.
Pat Williams. I think there's a chance he leaves. I mean, I think the Hornets, Thunder, they're going to throw money at him. But you could use another forward. You could use shooting, and then if you're Chicago, you've got a ton of guards. I mean, that hasn't really deterred them from acquiring more lately, but we'll see. But in a vacuum, not to keep using that phrase, but I really like Jared McCain. I think he's probably the second best shooter in the draft behind Reed Shepard. Yeah.
For sure. No, he's up there in that category of Reed Shepard and Dillingham. So he'd be nice. De Silva is interesting. I actually haven't considered that. It makes sense. Personally, I would hate it just because I love De Silva. In fact, he's a top five. He's a top five power rank talent for me. Oh, top five prospect for me in this draft. I'm a lot higher on him than most people, and it makes sense honestly in Chicago. I have nothing against Chicago, but I also just don't trust them. So I don't know how I feel about that, but that makes sense. OKC at number 12. At this point, I think Stephon Castle makes a lot of sense. I would have had before this Caruso trade, I would have had them draft a shooter. But Caruso, I think not that he's like an elite shooter
He can shoot pretty well
necessarily.
though.
He does
41%.
bring in a lot of shooting. He really sizes up a lot of their holes. I think if Castle's available, you might as well take Castle because of talent. But if they want to kind of fill their last need, I think you could go Khalil Ware here or Deron Holmes even might actually even be better. I think that might be a better direction to go, but I kind of see them going Castle just because of the hype around Castle. Um,
Yeah.
Even though I like them taking a big a lot better than Fit, but I see them taking Castle.
I like them taking a big a lot more. But
I mean, I think I've fallen in love with Deron Holmes completely. So I think like as a Thunder fan, that's like the pick that I would want. But if Steph Castle falls there, you gotta take him. You know, he's 6'6", so he's bigger than all your other guards.
oh, he's not the same size.
Or like, I mean, he's probably the same size as like J-Dub and shit.
Everyone on the team.
Yeah, everyone on the team is like 6'6", but you know he does championship. He has championship qualities, and we saw it in UConn. You know he's a pretty good rebounder. He's a great defender. He moves well without the ball, and that's something that works in Oklahoma City. And if he just plays like the Josh Giddey role,
Yeah,
With defense.
with defense, I take it. You know,
pretty much more athletic and Josh Giddey that actually plays great defense. So
that's
can't
great.
ask for much more. And then Sacramento at 13, I haven't taken Tristan da Silva. To me, it makes just too much sense to not take him. Again, I'm super high on him, but I think this goes around where he's projected. And I think fit-wise, it makes sense. Need-wise, it makes sense. He's a capable defender. He can guard the wing. You pretty much almost get another version of Keegan Murray. Why would you not want that? I like the way he can space the floor. He's a smart player. It just seems to make a lot of sense next to Keegan Murray, next to Sabonis, and next to Darren Fox. So I think they would have to probably take him there.
I love the fit. I mean, I love Tristan da Silva really. My question is, I don't know what direction the Kings are going in this draft.
They never know.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
go
like,
for the Bagleys of the world.
like they picked 3 guards in a row. Anyway, they picked Davion
They
Mitchell,
picked
Tyrese
Keegan
Haliburton.
Murray. That's about the only draft
Keegan
credit
Murray,
and
great
Darren
pick.
Fox a little while ago.
I mean, yeah, but yeah, I think I love the Tristan da Silva fit. To John Salon's also there, however you say it. Freaking
TS.
yeah, TS is there. He's a lot more raw. I don't know if he'd play immediately. Like significant minutes. And I personally am not a big saloon guy. But I think a lot of people around the league are. So I mean, I think that's probably the only guy I'd argue to go here.
Yeah.
True. Well, that brings us number 14 at Portland. We talked about how interesting they are earlier. If Khalil Ware is here at this point, I love Holmes. I don't know. For me, Ware and Holmes are like neck and neck as far as like prospects. I think you go Ware here. He's projected a little higher anyway. And fit wise, I like him a lot because Holmes is a little bit of a, despite being shorter, he's a bit of a bigger, tougher guy. Portland already has that. So I love Ware's fit. You go a little bit more for that ceiling, I think, athleticism, 7-footer guy. He has nice touch, can shoot the 3 ball. I like his touch a lot personally. And so
Yeah,
I
the
think he
tool-
could be interested there.
The tools on Khalil Ware are like off the charts, I think.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are just like, is this real? Like he just shot 42% from 3. How legit is that? You know, and Indiana wasn't a great team, but
Yeah,
so I think
hot take.
people are kind of questioning it. But I think if he just works out, if he just ends up being a good player, he's a top 10 talent this draft probably. And if you're Portland, you shouldn't, like I said earlier, they're not married to any of their bigs. So
At least they shouldn't be.
Yeah, and plus he can even give you like you could even potentially play him as a forward depending on how his 3-point shooting translates over and how consistent that really is in the league. You can play him as a forward next
And
to
then
like
you
an
can play
Aiton,
Moses
for
Brown at
example, or
5.
Robert Williams. Both those guys have a really big lineup. Thing. Hot take here, honestly. If you look at Ware, and if you look at Sar, they're not the same guy. Ware isn't that guy. But if you really buy into the potential of Ware, we're talking about a really high ceiling dude here.
I don't
Instead
think
of-
I can't disagree with you. I mean,
Yes, you
shut up.
can.
I'm glad you can.
I thought about this like a couple weeks ago. I was listening to podcasts and they were talking about it. I can't remember which one. Sorry, guys. But I think like I don't want to keep saying in a vacuum, but
In a
I've
nutshell,
never
in a
really-
nutshell, in a
in a
nutshell.
nutshell,
Yeah, you're
Like-
welcome.
their skill sets are pretty similar. Khalil Ware was just a lot more productive. And I know Sarr came off the bench and it was like a pros league. It's different, but just like he's more productive. So like if Khalil Ware just became a better player than Sarr, I'm not gonna be like absolutely stunned, you know.
Yeah.
Sarr's just so
Yeah.
raw.
You
He's
could make an argument if you were like, I don't think it will happen, but you could. I wouldn't necessarily do it, but you can make an argument you draft Khalil Ware number 3 just because you're so high on him. Like based on what we're just saying right now, I don't think that's like I don't think it would
For
be
Houston,
crazy.
yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, especially actually, yeah, I didn't even think about Houston, but it makes sense in a world. I don't think it'll happen. I wouldn't do it, but it's not like crazy. Anyway, I think that wraps it up. Top 14. My projections, they probably won't be right, but come back to this comment section when they're all right. Floater Gang out.